Yeah, hello there. Welcome to Hoist Garage again. I'm out in the old daily driver, the Audi A2, the one that passed 500,000 kilometers the other week. It's quite something. I'll try to give you a little review of the car as such. What have happened with the car during the time that I've had it. I've had it for well over 10 years now, so the car is old, really old. It's 19 years old now. Well, 500,000 kilometers, how does one dare to drive around in such an old car? But the fact is that it's holding up quite well. First of all, so why would one buy this car? Let's say that you find a very nice car that is only 15 years old and doesn't have much mileage. Would you why would one buy such a car? It's a decent daily driver. It's practical, I would say. For 4 persons you have plenty of space. The rear seat is in most A2s made only for 2 adults at the rear, but you can have really big persons there. You have good space. The floor is lower in the rear. The roof height is good, so it has a good seat. So for a family of 4, it's excellent, even if you have really large kids. It is also very well loadable, so to speak. You can even take the whole rear seat out of the car. I bought it because I had one specific requirement when I bought this car. I needed to get my son's hockey gear into the trunk, and with the possibility to fold or raise up the rear seat slightly, I could just get that in. So if the rear seats in this car, in this Audi A2, would not have had that feature, so to speak, that you would be able to raise up the rear seat a bit, I wouldn't have bought this car. Then I bought it also because it's quite economical. I wanted a cheap daily driver, and it doesn't take all that much fuel. It's the gasoline version, and it takes some 5.5 liters per 100 kilometers, so to speak. I would think that the 1.4 diesel takes 4.5 per 100, and the super economical 1.2 diesel takes maybe 3.5 per 100. That range, roughly. Then I also bought it because it's an aluminium car, and I just hate when cars rust. Corrosion is the worst thing. I really hate it. Really hate corrosion. And I bought the car because I wanted a car and that I could use for a long time, and I've used it for a long time, and I didn't want to see it turning into an oil tanker with rust marks here and there and rusty water dripping down or making ugly marks on the side of the car. Awful. There it has really delivered. The car is looking really nice. Of course the paint as such is aged, and as I will show you on some other clip, the clear coat has fallen off a bit, so you have to polish it a bit extra in those areas. I would say that in terms of pricing, I have it looks like cars that aren't all that nice sell for about 1,000 euros. They are drivable, no immediate attention needed, but they are quite a bit worn and quite high mileage. Cars with clear defects that you have to do work on right away, they sell for 500 euros, something like that. And then it's just going up 2,000 euros. Yeah, you get a pretty decent car, and then 3,000-4,000 euros, then you should expect something that looks really, really good. Low mileage, very nice condition. I have a friend that thought that, that Audi A2 of yours, it seems to be holding up quite well. Maybe I should have one as a cheap backup car, so to speak, for small extra trips with the family if there's something, or if my wife needs that car and I need another car, and an extra second car, just as simple as that. So he spotted one that was for sale for 2,000 euros. nothing had happened. So the owner had dropped the price to 1,500 euros, and it didn't seem to attract a lot of attention. So he said, well, do you think it could be something? Maybe we can negotiate the price a bit more. And I thought, yeah, sure, let's go there. Let's take a look at the car. And but I said, I think that even 1,500 euros is a bit too much for that car. So just looking at the photos and so on. So you should have a chat with him and see if he maybe just over the phone can imagine himself selling it for something in the range of more like 1,000 euros. And he had a chat and he said, yeah, it seems like he can drop the price a bit more. Good, fine. So then we went there, and the car was, it lacked quite a bit of TLC, as you call it. We asked about oil change, and the owner just said, okay, forget about it. He had not done any real service on the car for years. And then we were a bit like that, how much should we look at this car? But then we thought, okay, let's give it a go. And I brought my computer, so we plugged the computer into the OBD2 output, or whatever you call it, connector. And the car was giving us intermittent sensor issues with the engine, and we also thought, cam belt or a timing belt. When was the last time that was changed or replaced? And he said, I think it's due. Okay. Do you know how much that costs? No, not really. That's at least some 1,000 euros. He said, yeah. Okay, so one thing that's quite good is that it's easy to see the condition of the cam belt. You can just unsnap, so to speak, two little metal clamps, and then you lift off a little plastic cover, and then the cam belts or timing belts are there. There are two, one that goes the long way and one from one cam to the other. And we looked at those belts, and they looked different on the surface. So the main one looked kind of, in one way you could say that it looked fresh, absolutely no signs of any cracks or anything, but the surface looked a bit like, I don't know if you've seen the video of the Megane where I'm using the R tires on the racetrack. The surface looked a bit like that, and at first we didn't really understand, or I didn't understand what's this. But then it struck me. One of the wheels, tensioner wheel or some other wheel in that loop is probably about to size or seize, whatever you say, and block itself. Stop, it won't rotate anymore. So it's probably breaking the belt, and it has started to overheat the surface a bit. And that really scared both my friend and the owner of the car. We checked this when we came back, and I said this engine could stop any minute. And I said to my friend, this car it's not really worth anything. You have, because he is not really into tinkering with his own hands, so to speak, and making work at home. He has to drop the keys at some professional mechanic and let him do the work. And for you, this car has no value. It's gone. The repair cost will be higher than getting a better car. So that's where we ended. We didn't go any further. We made a little interesting experiment also. These cars, they tend to leak water down on the engine. The engine sits kind of just front of the what's that called? The plenum cover. And the plenum cover has a seal to the bonnet, and that little thing, that seal and that plenum cover and so on, as that thing ages, it leaks. So water is dropping down on the engine, and as the drops fall down, it splashes here and there. So if you're going to take a closer look to on a car like this, then bring a bottle of water and pour a little bit of water there while the bonnet is off. Just pour it near the seal and where the windshield flushing liquid comes out. Just pour a bit of water there, and if it starts to drop through quite quickly or start to leak there, then since my plenum cover was leaking initially, then I've had to replace the ignition coil and one of the injectors, fuel injectors. So it's, yeah, that's life. There are plenty of parts that you can find on the scrapyard, so it doesn't come out expensive. Yeah, beyond normal service, what have I had to replace on this car? I've had to replace the front strut bearing that sits on top of the suspension strut. I've had to replace the fuel pump relay. Sits down here under almost under the seat, always on the left hand side, even if it's a right hand driven car. If the car doesn't start, then you notice that could be the fuel relay, then knock on it, open it up and knock on it, then you might get going again. I've also had to replace the rear shock absorbers, just because the dust covers fell apart, so to speak. I've had to replace the EGR valve, and what I didn't know exactly when I was replacing it was that one has to do an electrical calibration with the to the ECU of the fuel injection system. But that can be done if you just have that VCDS computer or software. I've had to replace one of the oxygen sensors. Nothing special. They are well lubricated from the factory, so they're easy to replace. The front part of the exhaust system I've also had to replace. The flex joint went, and also the catalytic converter started to rattle. So yeah, but that was after some 480,000 kilometers, so it's not too bad, right? Then the license plate lamps at the rear, they are a bit so you have to replace them eventually. Then there are other things that I haven't had to replace, but I've had to rebuild them, so to speak. For instance, the alternator, it's on its second replacement for the regulator as such, and some year ago I had to replace the bearings also, and but it's still the original alternator, although it's been restored or rebuilt, maybe one could say. Then, yeah, the side turn indicator relay sits down in front and below the climate control unit. It just stopped blinking. The hazard lamps, so to speak, they work, but not when I used the switch. It's just to bend a little metal plate inside the relay and then it will work again. Silly, but well, that's the way it is. I've also had to I've had to rethread the oil plug threads. They failed after many oil changes. They failed. They are M14 by 1.5, so I got myself a cutting tool that's M15 by 1.5, and I also found plugs that have that dimension. So yeah, easy job. Then of course there's been some oil leaks with this engine, between the cam housing and the cylinder head. There can be an oil leak developing, so I had to lift off the cam housing and reseal that. Bit of work, but if you do it when you do the timing belt, then it's not too bad. Then what else? Well, let me think. Yeah, what else? The wiper arm needs to be re-riveted. I think I've done it twice. So if you can use some repellent on the windscreen, then you will save the life of that windshield arm. Yeah. Then about oil leaks, it's not that it can seep a little oil on the outside, it also consumes oil. And it seems like it's always been like that, or seems it has always been like that. So it's almost like driving a two-stroke engine or a two-stroke car, which in a way shouldn't be because it's a four-stroke. But anyhow, you can almost count on that. You have to add some 0.5 to 1% of oil. Yep, it's that bad, which is really ridiculous. But there's no smoke coming out, and the catalytic converter seems to cope with it. But typically for every 50 liters of gasoline, you have to top up the oil with some 0.25 liters of oil. So, and I use really good synthetic oil also. Now that means that if one drives the mileage that I do, then I don't buy just a 4-liter can of oil. I buy 20 liters. Just do the math. I drive a lot, so I use 15 liters of oil per year or something like that. Yeah, then it's also a bit interesting, what have I not touched on this car? And I have not touched the whole powertrain, so to speak. The engine is still original. Gearbox is original. Clutch never been touched at all. Drive shafts, nothing changed or replaced there. They are still all original. So the whole powertrain is untouched, and I think that's quite unbelievable. Of course, I've been doing a good service. Even the gearbox I've done oil changes on every second year, but still a drivetrain that is still original, nothing restored, retouched, rebuilt for 500,000 kilometers. Yep. Then, well, switches and stalks and stuff, they're all original, nothing touched there. Front suspension, steering rack, everything original. The only thing in the front suspension that I have had to replace is okay, that's strut bearing, but also the anti-roll bar links, the rattle links, so to speak. You have to replace them every now and then. 3 out of 4 wheel bearings are still original. And one more thing, the battery. Can you believe that the battery is 19 years old now? Unbelievable. I've been checking the nuts there, they are still virgin, nothing replaced. So that is unbelievable. But I think there's a reason for the good life of the battery. The battery seems to be of diesel size, so it's 80 amp hours. It's quite a big battery. It's located in the trunk, and the engine starts easily always. So the voltage drop, or the current cycle, so to speak, is very low. Also the temperature cycling is very low. So yeah, battery is still original. So as a summary, if you buy an old A2, you do get an odd car in a way, but it's an interesting car with its aluminium body design, and it will never ever rust, so that's not too bad. And if you know how to maintain and repair an old car, then yeah, why not? If you don't, then you will have to spend quite a bit of money for someone looking after the car for you. But yeah, if you think that's okay, fine, no worries. Yeah, the car is light. You can even take it out on thin ice, promise you. Of course, you have to check the ice, but still. And another thing that I think is a bit cool, the chief designer is Luc Donckerwolke. Okay, you might not know who that is, but he also designed or styled the Lamborghini Gallardo. And the Lamborghini Gallardo, the body of that car, was built in the same manufacturing plant as this car was built. So that's also a bit fun. So maybe I should get myself a Gallardo also to have next to this one. Anyhow, yeah, I think that's that. Bye for now. Take care. There will be more things coming from the old garage at home. Bye bye.